right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. This is going to be kind of my Texas Pro preview video here at 2 days out. So I'm going to go over some of all the most recent physique updates from really the highlighted guys here that really did well at the Tampa. Essentially, this Texas show is going to be a big rematch of what we just saw in Tampa, minus a couple of guys. So I want to start out with a guy that we didn't talk a whole lot about going into Tampa, and that was Joe Palacios. This is his latest update at 2 days out, and for me, Joe was the surprise of the Tampa show, securing a top 3 spot behind Quinton and Jordan Hutchinson and beating out John Jewitt and really everybody else that we talked about going into the show. Now, this really took me by surprise because when I was looking through the competitor list for Tampa and I was looking at all the different guys and their contest history, I looked at Joe, and his contest history showed one show, his pro debut, the Cali Pro last year, where he was 15th, essentially last place. Technically second to last because 16th is as low as you can score in a bodybuilding show. But he looked a lot different this time around in Tampa. And like I said, when I was watching the Tampa Pro, the individual routines, we saw the guys come out that we had been talking about, the guys that we're familiar with, guys that have been competing for a little while. And then I saw Joe come out for his individual routine. I think this is why the individual routines are significant, because when I saw him come out, I was really impressed. And what you'll see when you're looking at this physique update here is just the crazy width that he has to his physique. His shoulders, the delts are just crazy. The front double bicep almost reminds me a little bit of Nick Walker's front double bicep, but this guy is wide even in the side shots. Like, he just got so much width to every part of his physique. The front poses, front lat spread, most muscular, crazy wide. The side poses, he looks really thick. And again, it's a weird way to describe a side pose, to look wide from the side. But he does. Looks wide from the back, just dense, crazy muscle. And I think probably more importantly, he's in really, really good condition in this update. This is a guy, this is what I like to see in bodybuilding. This is a guy that really, for me, kind of came out of nowhere, making his pro debut last year, essentially almost placing last at that pro debut, coming into a lineup like this, one of the best lineups that we've seen in a while. I mean, one of the deepest, I would say. And beating guys that I did not think he was going to beat. John Jewitt, Patrick Moore, Emir Omaragic, John De La Rosa, Bruno Santos, Beef Stew. I mean, this guy, he's good. He's really good. And even though he's in really good lighting here, you can see just crazy conditioning, super striated glutes, super carved out hamstrings, deep striations in the delts. I think that's another really impressive thing about his physique is, yeah, he's got these big, crazy delts that add to that illusion of width to his physique, but they're super striated, they're super detailed. His midsection's on point. He's got the super, Hadi Chupin separated obliques and serratus. So as much as I feel we're going to be talking a lot about Quinton and Jordan, and we have been talking about Quinton and Jordan, I feel like this is a guy to watch. There's always a chance that he moves up here. And just for reference, the update that you're watching here was 4 days out, and the update in the very beginning was 2 days out, just to differentiate the two. But I was really impressed with what we saw from Joe here. I don't want to undersell it. I think this is, we maybe saw the making of a future star here. Like I said, to my knowledge, this is only his second pro show. It looks like he earned his pro card in 2023, made his pro debut in 2024, and this is the first pro show where it really looks like he's making a pretty big wave here. Now, next up, we've got Quint Beastwood, Quinton Eriya, probably one of the most talked about bodybuilders in this lineup. On his YouTube channel, he posted some 3 days out updates, and the title of this video was 3 days out, Quinton's best look yet, with a question mark. And he shows his physique in several different settings. And this is something that I like, and I think more bodybuilders should do, not just in one lighting, but for 1 day of updates, he shows updates in his house, outside, in the gym, just giving different variables, different lightings, different angles. I think that's actually really useful. And to me, yes, I looked back at his updates from last week, and yes, in this video, I think he looks tighter than he did at 3-4 days out last time around. At least, I think, noticeably. And I think that's what he needs to do to take the edge. But not only do that for prejudging, but to be able to carry that conditioning over to the finals and hold it throughout the show, I think is the important thing. Because if you remember in Tampa, there was a really big swing in those first and second place points to Quinton's detriment And I think it was because he did not hold that conditioning through to the finals, but he looked a lot better at prejudging conditioning-wise. So even if he does show up at the Texas prejudging in much better condition than he did in Tampa, he's got to be able to hold it over. Because if you look back at this Tampa top 2, I think that was really Jordan's strongest point. He had a lot of muscle, dense muscle, grainy muscle, but I think Jordan's strongest attribute, especially against somebody like Quinton, was, like I described, head-to-toe condition. He was equally conditioned all over. I don't think Quinton was. I think his upper body was lacking a certain element of conditioning. But Jordan was very complete from that standpoint. And I've said it before, it's not just because he's from Texas. He does remind me of a Branch Warren-esque physique. And I think the big question this weekend, and I think what a lot of people want to see, is that Jordan and Quinton rematch. Can Quinton improve enough for the Texas show to pull off the upset and win, get the Olympia qualification, make his Olympia debut? Samson Dowda seems to think so. We talked about that in the last video. Probably the biggest endorsement you can get. Reigning Mr. Olympia, Samson Dowda, rarely gives out predictions for shows outside of the Olympia. He gave out a prediction for the Texas Pro that Quinton was going to win the show. Which also, I mean, is a lot of pressure for Quinton. I'm sure that he's probably a little bit stressed because there is a level of expectation on him. He's got the attention of the fans right now. He's got the attention of other bodybuilders, reigning Mr. Olympias. So he's probably feeling a lot of pressure on himself right now to perform and to improve and to bring it for Texas. And the interesting thing will be to see how he handles that pressure. Because after Tampa, he talked about how in the past he had thought about retiring and he was, not proud of his last performance. And he felt like he let everybody down. So I feel like this is a good proving ground for him. If he's able to win this show, kind of overcome what I would imagine is a lot of pressure on him, especially hearing, his experience with his last competitive season and how disappointed he was in those results and how he let people down, etc., and thought about quitting the sport. It's a lot of pressure for him. And I think I'm going to add to it, unfortunately, because I'm about to say that Quinton is my pick to win the show. If he improves the conditioning, Quinton is going to win this show. Now, speaking of Jordan is not going to be easy to beat here. So I'm going to look at Jordan's 2 most recent updates. Both of these would have been 4 days out. Both of these sets of photos would have been at 4 days out. I'm trying to find pictures that are just not stage pictures from Tampa, but something beyond Tampa, after Tampa. And the interesting thing will be, I think that Jordan is going to have a little bit of a home field advantage here because he's from Texas, trains in Texas. I think it does present, when you're competing in your home state, it does lift off a certain degree of stress, not having to travel far away to compete, not having to, get a faraway hotel, you're on a plane, you're jet lagged, etc. I think in bodybuilding, there definitely is an element to a home field advantage. And he's probably going to be like the hometown favorite. He's probably going to have a good portion of the crowd that's there rooting for him because they're his training partners and they're his friends and they're his family. And it's easier for them to get there. And look, there's a reason he won the Tampa show. He is a great bodybuilder. We said, going into Tampa, of all the physique updates that I had seen going into the show, his impressed me the most. Like I said, head-to-toe conditioning, just peeled all over. Deep striations in the shoulders, chest, midsections in check. Legs are absolutely insane. Quads are crazy, deep separation, striated glutes, deep, carved out hamstrings, a ton of dense, grainy muscle. You're seeing all that in these pictures, very similar to what we saw going into Tampa. I want to say he looks tighter in these updates than he did in the Tampa updates, but also he still kind of got the remnants of the pro-tan here from having just competed. So I think it's a little bit of that pro-tan effect, but very impressive in both of these sets of updates. And again, 2 very different styles of lighting. He's doing the window lighting in one, and he's doing just, in his room lighting. And by the way, I like this thing. This seems to be more popular. I've seen more bodybuilders doing this lately. I like the idea of, if you're just posing in your house or your garage or whatever, a lot of bodybuilders have been using a black backdrop to take their physique updates for Instagram. And I really like that this is becoming a trend. I think it makes the physique stand out and pop a lot more, removes any background distractions. I really like that this is becoming a new thing. And I think, I think coaches kind of popularize this. I think a lot of check-in coaches ask, or some of them probably even provide this backdrop for sending the check-ins to the coach. And I think that's where it started with these guys posting them on Instagram. And then, of course, I was also looking at John Jewitt. This would be his 3 days out update. Obviously, John Jewitt, known for bringing this crazy condition. I don't know how he does it from these back poses, man. The amount of detail that you can see all over his body from the back. The upper back is one thing. The glutes, the hamstrings, just insanely detailed physique. Just maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing. A little bit, on the shorter side, a little bit on the blockier side. I was surprised to see him out of the top 3 in Tampa. But with the package that Joe Palacios brought, because he's the guy that beat out John, I can see it. He's a little bit, in describing Joe as aesthetic, I guess is kind of a stretch, but a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, a little bit more, just less blocky of a look. And I think, frankly, has a lot more muscle. So he's a lot more muscular without looking blockier. But the type of conditioning and detail that John consistently brings, I think, is always something dangerous, because that's one of the biggest factors that we see a lot in bodybuilding, is you can see a guy that slips, maybe a better bodybuilder on paper than somebody like John. They come in off, they slip up on their conditioning, and it's somebody like John that's consistent every time you see him that takes a higher placing, that takes their spot. So somebody like John is always dangerous in these lineups. I feel like he's still going to be a first call-out guy here, potentially, top 3. Maybe we'll see him and Joe Palacios go back and forth. And I think rounding out the top 5, when you're looking at the guys that we saw place within the money at the Tampa show, Bruno Santos, this is the latest update from him. This will be 4 days out. I think that the judges, they seem to really like Bruno's physique. He does really well. He beats guys that I never really expect that he's going to beat. Like he beat John De La Rosa at this show. I thought John was going to place ahead of him for sure. He beat Nathan Diasha maybe it was like a month ago now, a month and a half. He's been getting some really good placings, placing ahead of some really good veteran pro bodybuilders. I think there's a good chance that we see him in the top 5 again at this show. And I think it's really going to come down to what we see happen with these guys. I think Patrick Moore would be the next in line to maybe crack the top 5, because John De La Rosa was 6th. He's not competing here. Patrick was 7th. I think we're going to be looking at Emir Omaragic, Beef Stew. If any of these guys have a drastic transformation, and are able to move up into that first call, like I said, I think Patrick is probably the front of the line. I think I'll probably do another video. Well, I guess it's going to have to be tomorrow, that includes some of the guys that I think are pushing to maybe crack that top 5. But looking back at what we saw in Tampa, I think those guys, as long as they're still on for Texas, I think there's a good chance they're going to be the top 5 again. Like, they were really impressive. I think it was a really good top 5, and I think there's a good chance it's a very similar top 5, maybe even the same, just in a different order at the Texas show. But I think it really depends what guys like Patrick, what guys like Beef Stew, guys like Emir, what changes from last week to now. Could it be significant enough to move them up 1, 2, 3 placings? And for me, let's look at this competitor list again here, and you guys can give me your final predictions as this video ends. What's your top 3? What's your top 6? Who's your winner? I think the top 2 is going to remain between Jordan and Quinton. I'm going to pick Quinton to win this time around. I think third place, like I said, if Joe is able to bring what he brought in Tampa or better, I think he's going to be third again. I'm just really impressed with the physique that he brought. Ton of muscle, crazy width, and in really good shape. A lot of detail to his physique. He really popped in that individual routine. Looks great in the comparisons. And look, maybe you can even have the conversation. Is it possible, if Jordan and Quinton are both a little bit off here, is it possible that Joe wins the Texas show? If Jordan and Quinton kind of missed the conditioning mark, which I'm not saying they're going to, but if they both did, and Joe nails it, he's got a ton of muscle, ton of width right behind them based on the Tampa scores. Could we see him come out of nowhere and win the show? I don't know. I still see Jordan and Quinton as the top 2 here, but could somebody else from the top 5 move up? Maybe John, maybe Bruno. I feel comfortable saying maybe even the same top 3 here. If Joe is in good shape again, I think he's going to be hard to beat. He actually beat John by a good margin in Tampa. I could see him being top 3 again. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your predictions for this show? As always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.